Good evening. Sadiq Khan has accused the MP at the centre of an Islamophobia row of being racist and anti-Muslim and says the Prime Minister hasn't done enough to condemn the comments. Lee Anderson, who was kicked out of the Tory party, claimed Islamists have got control of the Mayor and London. He's refusing to say sorry. This evening, Rishi Sunak called the words wrong and ill-judged, but stopped short of calling them Islamophobic. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has more.
Oh, I've got a phone call to make.
Lee Anderson was happy to talk to his phone today, but not to us, and seemed uncharacteristically camera shy. That was in stark contrast to last week, when the former Conservative Party deputy chair made this controversial judgment about London and its mayor.
I don't actually believe that these Islamists have got control of our country, but what I do believe is they've got control of Khan, and they've got control of London, and they've got control of Storm as well.
Mr Anderson was suspended from the party at the weekend after refusing to apologise.
Well, I've been very clear that what Lee said was wrong, it was unacceptable, and that's why we suspended the whip. And it's important that everybody, but particularly elected politicians, are careful with their words and do not inflame tensions.
But despite being asked several times by reporters today, the Prime Minister seemed reluctant to label Mr Anderson's remarks as Islamophobic or racist.
There are tropes that are clearly anti-Semitic. We call them out. There are tropes that are clearly Islamophobic and anti-Muslim. They should be called out as well. What this man said were racist, Islamophobic and anti-Muslim. I'm bewildered why Rishi Sunak and the Cabinet are refusing to call this out.
In less than 10 weeks, voters go to the polls to choose the next Mayor of London. Sources close to Sadiq Khan suggested Lee Anderson's comments had echoes of a previous and now discredited Conservative campaign.
Thank you very much.
In 2016, Boris Johnson was still mayor, Zac Goldsmith was hoping to replace him, and David Cameron was in number 10. But when the Prime Minister attempted to link Sadiq Khan to Islamic extremists, the tactic was widely seen to have backfired.
It is very important that we do not back these people and we do not appear on platforms with them. And I have to say, I am concerned about Labour's candidate as Mayor of London, who has appeared again and again and again.
London chose against Zac Goldsmith in that election, and I think that was the right thing. And my hope is that London will again supersede this idea of racism and of division, and instead vote for any politician who will speak to what they care about, not about racism, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Sadiq Khan said he was in no doubt Mr Anderson's comments were Islamophobic and racist. Mr Anderson offered the word clumsy as his explanation.
I mean, Simon, Sadiq Khan wasn't holding back in terms of what he felt about those comments, was he?
No, he accused the government of pouring petrol on the flames of Islamophobia. With the mayoral election campaign just weeks away, so this is the sort of controversy that the London Conservatives could do without. Their candidate, Susan Hall, tweeted on X a short time ago, "Let's come together. Sadiq Khan and I have lots of disagreements, but on this vital issue we agree. Anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim hatred has no place in our city or in our politics. We must do everything we can to stamp it out." London Tories might be trying to distance themselves from Lee Anderson's remarks, but Labour is not going to let Rishi Sunak off the hook while he continues to publicly call out those comments as racist and Islamophobic.
OK, Simon, thanks very much. Next tonight, it was fireworks and cheers when the machine digging HS2's longest tunnel completed its 10-mile journey under the Chiltern Hills. It's taken nearly 3 years to bore since it was launched near Rickmansworth in Hertfordshire. But as our political correspondent Simon Harris reports from Buckinghamshire, not everyone's celebrating.
For once, there was something to celebrate. After the cutbacks and controversies, this was a major landmark in the story of HS2. A giant tunnelling machine called Florence emerged into the daylight after a 3-year journey under the Chilterns.
We are hugely proud. We are immensely proud because the team has worked to overcome problems, and we see today the opportunity to celebrate that massive achievement.
The party included hot dogs and burgers for the workforce in their regulation orange suits. Caitlin joined the project as an apprentice and is now a qualified engineer on the tunnelling machines.
I don't know what I was expecting to start with, but it is completely different to anything. It's working underground all the time, not being able to see the daylight. It's very different, but I actually really enjoy it. I do think it's a nice industry to work in.
In 2013, the price tag for the line from London to Birmingham was £19 billion. A decade later, that had almost tripled to £57 billion. Earlier this year, the budget was revised again to £66 billion. The 10 miles of tunnels under the Chilterns are just one of the reasons why the cost of HS2 has ballooned. They were never part of the original plan, but an expensive addition in the face of mounting opposition from people living along the route. Between the M25 near Denham and Great Missenden, HS2 will be hidden beneath the ground.
It's going through the Chiltern Hills, which are obviously an area of outstanding natural beauty. So they're building the tunnel through them so we don't build above the ground in order to put it in a tube instead to keep it an outstanding area of natural beauty in the end.
But in the tiny hamlet of South Heath, some villagers are unhappy at having HS2 as a neighbour.
The worst part about living next door to HS2 is the light pollution and the noise pollution that we've had 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Most of the footpaths here have been either diverted temporarily or permanently, so our walks are very much curtailed.
Are you glad it is in a tunnel?
Very glad it's in a tunnel, but it should have been tunnelled all the way through.
In the next few weeks, another machine will finish excavating the second tunnel. But HS2 is a long way from being finished. The first trains could be almost a decade away. Simon Harris, ITV News, Great Missenden.
Next tonight, cast your mind back 6 months ago when the Mayor's expansion of ULEZ was ushered in with a promise to clean up London's dirty air. So what's really changed? 6 months on, the anger from some drivers is still as raw as ever, with some refusing to pay. We also still don't know if the capital's air is any cleaner. A report is due out, but not until after the mayoral election. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Anti-ULEZ protests are sometimes comical, sometimes criminal. In West London, activists, including one dressed as a dinosaur, were attempting to block the view of a ULEZ camera near Hillingdon Hospital. In Upminster in East London, a ULEZ camera was lying on the ground after being cut down by vandals in another deliberate sabotage. The latest attack was just 2 days ago. It seems this camera is a frequent target because of where it is, just a few hundred yards from the entrance to a crematorium. The South Essex crematorium is in the London borough of Havering, but it caters for bereaved families from outside of Greater London. If their cars aren't ULEZ compliant, they must pay £12.50 to go to a funeral or visit a relative's last resting place.
There's over 15,000 people that have actually been caught out so far in Havering, so that's fines going to the Mayor of London.
Lorraine probably owes thousands of pounds. She has more than 60 unopened letters from Transport for London. She's a nurse who needs her car for work, but can't afford a new one, can't afford the daily charge, and can't afford the fines.
Let them carry on. They just come through the post, they go in the cupboard.
And you're not paying them?
No.
Nobody from TfL has chased you up?
No, I get letters, they just get unopened in the box in the cupboard.
Aren't you worried about being taken to court?
No, not really.
But the expansion of the zone to all of Greater London in August also has many fans, including a group of clean air campaigners whose children have serious illnesses.
When the first zone was put in place, it reduced nitrogen oxide by 50%. That's a massive reduction, and it happened really quickly. That was in the first 10 months. Then when it was expanded to outer London, it was another reduction of 20%. So we know that clean air zones work.
But data about the extended zone hasn't been published and might not be until after the mayoral election.
Today's 6 months, so in the next few weeks that data will be looked at by TfL. That will be reviewed by somebody independently, and it will be published as soon as they can.
But you might be bound by election rules and not able to publish until after May the 2nd.
Well, we'll publish it as soon as we can. Whether that has to be after the mayoral election, we'll wait and see when we've got that information.
Susan Hall, the mayor's Conservative rival, said Sadiq Khan was told from the beginning that it would have a negligible effect on air quality, but he didn't listen. Now he has decided to hide the air quality data until after the election to avoid being proven wrong. 6 months on, Sadiq Khan's clean air zone still divides opinion. Simon Harris, ITV News, Upminster.